If you spent more than a week on Kandahar Airfield after 2008, there's a good chance you had at least one meal at the Kabob House. For our group of friends and coworkers, that meal was every Friday before cigar night. This week, we spoke with the founder of the Kabob House, Helal, known by everyone as Leo, and his wife Homa Mohammad, who together now own and operate Afghan Kabob in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Both American citizens born in Afghanistan, Leo and Homa returned to Afghanistan as interpreters supporting U.S. and NATO operations. It was on the boardwalk where they would meet and eventually marry years later in America. We spoke with Leo and Homa about their story and the complexities with running the Kabob House on a military base in a war zone compared to Afghan Kabob in North Carolina. We also got their perspective as Afghan-Americans of the war effort to date and what the future holds for Afghanistan. Welcome to the boardwalk. Welcome back to the Boardwalk, episode 13, the one that we wanted to do last week, but you have to schedule this stuff in advance. Today we're going to be joined by Leo and Homa, who, like we said last week, and I think the week before that, they ran the Kabob House on the Boardwalk in Kandahar, which was the best place for food. We frequented there at minimum every Friday before we went and had cigars, and there were some weeks where we ate there 2 or 3 times. So Leo, Homa, thank you very much for running that little slice of heaven in an otherwise not so great situation. Like we said last week, Leo and Homa are now in Fayetteville, North Carolina, my hometown, where they own and operate Afghan Kabob. My mother went there the other day. She said the food was outstanding. So, I didn't lie to her. So I don't really know how to transition this. I don't have a journalism or degree or anything like that. So Leo and Homa, if you guys want to kind of just start with your story and how you went from Afghanistan to New York to eventually North Carolina.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having us. It's been absolutely, we're looking forward to this, just speaking with you guys and speaking about our experiences and stuff. We started the Kabob House.
Well, I do want to correct one thing. I was never involved in the Kabob House in Afghanistan. That's where I met him. So I was never partners with him. I didn't have any connection to his business out there.
Yeah, and I started when I was an interpreter. I was an interpreter in Afghanistan I started being an interpreter in 2006. I went to Afghanistan and I got into started working for the special forces in Afghanistan, and I ended up in CAF in Kandahar, and just realizing that not a lot of soldiers had an opportunity to eat Afghan food, because you got to remember, not every soldier got the chance to go outside the green zone. Like people that working in the post office, people working behind the scenes, people working in CONCAF. Those were the people that never got the chance to eat Afghan food. And I just saw that opportunity one day, and I'm like, why don't we have an Afghan restaurant in Afghanistan? And that's how I came up with, just putting everything together and opening a restaurant on the base, which will give you the freedom to come into the boardwalk at any time, grab some Afghan food and just give you the taste of the Afghan food and the culture overall. And unfortunately, we didn't have the room and stuff to build a whole sit-down restaurant. We literally started off a container. Like we built a 40-foot container and we put a grill in there and we just literally put everything together and then brought it into CAF.
What were some of the complexities of trying to run a restaurant? I think you mentioned it in an email to Zach. What are some of the complexities of trying to run a restaurant in CAF, in that green zone you talked about?
Well, absolutely. I mean, some of the most difficult things that I've probably done in my life, not realizing. And when I was working as an interpreter, I made pretty decent amount of money. And then when I did, I literally invested every single penny I had into this project. I quit my job. I had an interim top secret clearance. And I was like, you know what, let me just go ahead and do this project. I went to Dubai and I put this container together, not knowing what kind of issues I'm going to run into later on. So when we did, transferred the container and the container arrived to CAF and we were setting it up. Well, first of all, the biggest issue we were running into is getting the stuff there. So for example, like when we were bringing even our containers or equipments by road, one of the biggest issues we had was the Taliban catching our containers, because if they open the container and they see a grill and rice maker and stuff. They're like, well, no Afghans are using this. This is definitely going to a base. They'll burn it down. And then finally, when the container got there, the biggest issue we run into was inventory. We couldn't get inventory because, again, remember, we're on a base in Afghanistan, and then we're on a base, a NATO base, ISAF base, which is probably, I mean, we have every single nation in Kandahar. We had Canadians, American, Australians, like we had every single, different nation in there. And then the biggest issue that we run into was food, getting food. And there are only about 4 to 5 suppliers around the world that you can actually get food that you can cook for the soldiers. And especially the most restriction were from the U.S. So we couldn't get food. Like there are only a few companies like Sodexo, Supreme. And then when we went to Supreme and Sodexo and stuff, and we were asking them for food, they just laughed at us. They literally laughed at us. They were like, "What? You need $100,000 worth of product? No, our contracts are like $50 million contract. I mean, they're getting $50 million letters, and now we're here with the $200,000 contract." So they won't give us. Finally, luckily, we got really lucky. We found a company called Seven Seas, which were actually originated to bring food for the Australians in Kandahar, another part of Afghanistan. And a dear friend of mine, Nishad, he's the one that took, trust in us and say, you know what, I know you guys are small, you guys are nobody, but I'm going to go ahead and help you guys out and send you guys the product. The next biggest problem we ran into is like bringing the food into Kandahar. So we were, at the beginning, we try to bring stuff by the road, and most of our stuff will go bad. I mean, you're getting a $100,000 inventory, and by the time it gets to CAF, it's going bad. That was really difficult thing. And then the second, and again, if the Taliban catches our truck, they will literally kill the driver and burn the whole place down, because they know nobody's getting a container full of lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and where's this going? It's going to CAF. It's going to base. So, and then one of the biggest issue we always run into is the security. Like you bringing it throughout, like you couldn't trust just the locals or whatever. You never know what somebody can do to the food. So we literally had to fly everything out to CAF. We had to fly our lettuce out. We had to fly our cucumbers out. We had to fly our tomatoes out, and still trying to keep our costs to where we can, still serve the soldiers and selling a plate of kebab for $12, $13. And not realizing, well, the customer is never going to realize that this lettuce actually flew out first class. We had to charter airplanes to fly lettuce and tomatoes out there. And that's how I actually met Homa. And she was one of the biggest complainers. Every day I come to the store, I'd be working, and the employees will always come to me and I'm like, sir, there's this one lady. The poor guys barely spoke English, and the girls they were from Philippines. They're like, sir, there's one lady always complaining. So one day I spoke to her. I'm like, excuse me, ma'am, can I help you? Like, what's the problem? And she would always be like, well, you guys don't have lettuce, and you guys don't have tomatoes, and this is not right. This is not the Kabli's made. My mom makes it better, and my dad does this. And I'm like, well, first of all, you're in damn CAF. You know what I mean? And then second, your mom is not here to cook for you. I have a person from a totally different nation making a food that's not even close to their traditional food, and they're trying their best, and we're all working 12, 13, 14 hours a day. And that's exactly how we met. And then after that, she became a better customer.
Mind you, at that time, I was new. I had just landed in CAF. It was my first assignment, and I was looking for food that was similar to America, which I thought I would expect.
There's echoes for that.
And we ran into we ran into the same exact issue with a lot of customers. And customer will come in and like we used to sell Philly cheesesteak in our store, and we'll run out of bread. If we run out of bread, and the same exact issue we always run into with equipments, if our equipments went down, it wasn't like hey, go run to the local market or go to this place or that place and grab a new register. It's like, okay, somebody have to fly to Dubai and get a new register, or somebody have to go fly to New York and get this piece of equipment to fix this machine because this machine is not working. And then also all the equipments and stuff that we were getting from Dubai, they were like really bad quality stuff. They were all Chinese made quality, and they couldn't handle a 24-hour operation. Like, I mean, we were serving at least 15 to 16, almost 2,000 soldiers a day, like customers a day. So when you have that kind of clientele, 24 hours, you just nonstop. It doesn't matter what kind of equipment you're going to get, whether it's a fryer, whether it's American, German, whatever, it's going to break eventually. So we got to a point. I mean, by the time we were done with Kabob House, we started with one 40-foot container, and by the time we were done, we added about 10 to 11 more containers to that, and we had to keep a stock of, like, we had at least 8 frozen 40-foot containers. We had like 4 walk-in refrigerators. We had dry storage, about 20 other refrigerators. I mean, the logistics of all of it to put it together was just absolutely a nightmare. And the biggest nightmare that gave me at least the most was because I was more on the operations side, so I was more in the kitchen. I was more on dealing with the day-to-day, customer problems, or whatever is logistics, or whatever is inventory, what is employees training, getting employees out there. Like, we couldn't use the local nationals because the local nationals, they had to be screened, and then you have to bring them in, and then you have to be escorting them at all times. So we had to bring TCNs, which were like third country nationals. So we had to bring them from India, we had to bring them from other countries, and then bringing them in, training them, and then providing them with, with the bathrooms, food, and medical, and place to stay and all that. And some of these guys were brand new. I mean, they were like 19-year-old, just came out from India, and next thing you know, he's standing making chicken kebab, and we get a rocket attack. So, and it's like, what do I do? I mean, I literally had to like smack people out of it because they're standing in front of a damn fryer, a 350-degree fryer, and they're just frozen. And it's like, wake up, we got to move, get to a bunker, get to a bunker. And then we always ran into like inspections. Oh my God. I mean, the inspection was, it drove me crazy. When I say I was in the kitchen almost every day, the inspection. So we work for nation with every type of soldier you guys can imagine. I mean, you guys been there. We had Canadians with Americans. And I never knew this, but we all have different sets of rules. Like, we had the Canadians come in on Monday, and they'd be like, well, you can't put the chicken here. You got to put the chicken here, and you have to put the beef here. So we're going to shut you down till you fix that correction. I'm like, okay, no problem. So we shut down, we fix it. All right, guys, from now on, the chicken goes here. Printing out new charts. Let's put the chicken here. That's how we're going to do it. And then, like, literally a day later or 2 later, we have the Australians coming. It's like, no, man, you can't do that, man. You got to move this over. It's like, no, wait. Well, the Canadians told me I can't put it here, but now you're telling me that I have to put it here. And then at the same time, like, I'll have the American. So we, like, here in the U.S., we, any food establishments that I've worked at, we get inspection every 6 months, 5 months, 8 months, and which is normal, which is average. Unless you're running a really, really fast-paced place, you get more inspections. But we were getting inspections every day, if not every other day. And it was always from a different nation. And every nation had a different rule. And we were the first civilian, like I was the first civilian, like not being Burger King, not being McDonald's, not being a big branch to open something like that over there. And I remember walking to Comcast one day, and I was so pissed off. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, you guys need to sit down and pull something together that works for us. And they thought about it, and they were like, hey, this is a good idea. Yeah, we should. So they, like, we all had health inspectors from every nation. And they all sat down and came up with a specific book for us, like, we had to follow. And then that book literally became the book for the boardwalk. Everybody had to follow that book, but I was the first one there. So I had to deal with getting shut down every day or every other day, as far as the running the day-to-day operations of it. And we'll always run into issues where, like, even our dry storage, like, we could get our dry storage, we'll get it from Pakistan or we get it from Iran, and it'll be coming in. And then, man, I remember so many times running to the gate, right, going up to the front of the gate and getting a call from Comcast and say, hey, we just got a truck from you guys, and we have dry storage where napkins, forks, spoons, and those kind of stuff. And then the truck would be positive for explosive, or the truck would be positive for something else. And I'm like, I don't know what this company that I'm using use this truck for. I'm bringing salt and pepper and, like, napkins and stuff. And then my inventory is stuck now, and I'm sitting there for like 6 hours, going through the whole. I mean, it became a normal thing where Comcast knew who we were. It was a direct. It got to a point where we were directly talking to the command, like, hey, it's my truck. I have no control over what this truck was doing 6 days ago. It's just bringing my, for example, forks and spoons. And now you're holding my truck down for another 3 weeks. And now I got a pissed off customer come in saying why I don't have forks, and it's like, how do I put this together? So it was never, ever an easy place. Like, we're here in the U.S., you call Cisco, you call one of these, U.S. Foods or any big companies, you want lettuce at 6 o'clock in the morning, you'll get lettuce at 6 o'clock in the morning. There will be no problem. I guarantee you. I mean, you might run into an issue where, like right now, we're running with the COVID-19, but I guarantee you, if you're paying your money on time and you're paying your bills on time, you will get your lettuce and you will get fresh lettuce. Um, yeah, so I mean, those were definitely the difficult parts of the working there, and then working with employees. For example, like some of those employees will stay away from home for 8 months, 9 months, and they'll be missing family. Just overall, bringing our trucks and dealing with the local Afghans. I remember carrying Roshan cards. I don't know if you guys remember or not, like Roshan phone cards. I used to carry a stack of them in my pocket, and every time I'll see my trucks are coming in, I'll go up to the front gate. I'm like, hey guys, here's a Roshan card. Here's a Roshan. We'll give them all Roshan cards, and our trucks will get through. And yeah, I mean, we still run into those issues till this day. I mean, like we just shut down our last business, which was Coffee Time in Afghanistan on CAF. There used to be a place, I'm sure you guys know, the Tim Hortons. So when Tim Hortons shut down, I actually took over Tim Hortons and turned it into Coffee Time because Tim Hortons didn't want to come back on the base. So we approached Tim Hortons, and we just shut that down right now recently when CAF closed down about 8 months ago. Until now, I mean, till this second, we were running into the same issues where I knew always what we wanted to try at our best was not only build a business and build a good business, but at the same time come up with an idea to how can we benefit the soldiers, right? So I remember going to MWR, and seeing all these soldiers waiting in line for hours and hours and hours and hours trying to make a phone call to home, and we're like, well, why don't we have an internet cafe here? We should have an internet cafe like we have in Europe. Anywhere in Europe you go, whether it's Germany, whether it's Austria, anywhere you go, they have internet cafes where people go there, they play games, they download things, they sit on computers for hours and hours and hours. And that's exactly what we did. We approached Comcaf and say, hey, we can provide a service that will not only benefit the soldiers, but we had gaming nights. I mean, soldiers will come in and they sit down and they play Call of Duty. They play Call of Duty with people back at home. And the same thing with Coffee Time. And once Tim Horton left, I know we had green beans, I know we had coffee, but we didn't have donuts. And we're like, we got Americans here, and Americans love donuts. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way Americans not gonna eat donuts. And all my businesses that I've ever opened is like I always try to give the customer the best I can. Of course, it's still a business. You still have to make a profit, but we didn't cut corners. I mean, we're literally flying things out from Canada. Like we will literally follow every step of the franchise. We'll fly our flowers. We fly everything out to Afghanistan and make donuts every day. 5 o'clock in the morning, we'll make fresh bagels, fresh donuts, and everything just literally by the book as it was if you would have walked into. Actually, you know what? Our donuts were more fresh than if you walk into Dunkin' Donuts somewhere around here. Because
sure.
If you go over here, they're all frozen and they take it off, they defrost it. No, we fried our donut every single day. And unfortunately, when we were shutting everything down, we literally just picked up the containers and we just left them behind. And because there was no point of bringing us the equipments here, it wasn't going to do old equipments. And it was going to cost us hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s just bringing the equipments over here.
It'd be cheaper to just get new equipment there.
It would be cheaper just to get rid of them and just throw it away.
So you literally designed your restaurant originally in Dubai, like in a container, and then had it brought to CAF, and you were flying food in from all over the world, and it would just land there at Kandahar Airfield because you couldn't ship food right over
Correct.
there.
Correct. So you can buy local food. That's number one. That's a big no. You cannot buy anything local. Okay. And then you also got to remember, it's not. It's of course it's. You always have to think about behind you, like in your mind is always there. Like, well, if I do buy something from outside, God forbid somebody can do something. I mean, you have to understand there's bad people out there. There are people out there trying to kill us, right? So that can go really south for you. Number two, if people go from, like, say for example, if I take a 17-year-old right here from the U.S. that was born in Fayetteville all their life, they never left Fayetteville, and I take them straight to Afghanistan and I have them a meal, I guarantee you most likely he or she will going to get sick. Just because the metabolism is not used to the same type of food. I mean, people that travel, like I travel all the time, so it's not going to affect me. But somebody that has never traveled, it will affect their metabolism. What is the meat? What is the lettuce? What is the tomato? It's the chemicals that we use over here that we don't use over there. It's everything from the water to the I guess even the soil on the ground will make it different, but it will get you sick. So you have to always remember that. And then the last thing you want to do is, get 1,500 soldiers sick on a base that's trying to protect you. And you do got to remember, I mean, those guys are some of the, of course, the people that came into our store were very important people too. They had missions, they had jobs. Some of the SF guys, I mean, absolutely. So we had to take everything into precaution. I mean, to other people, it looks easy. Like, I remember I have a few people come over like, oh, well, you're running another store. I'm like, good luck with that one, Like, if I fire 2 people right now, I have to go to India to get 2 more people. So it seems easy, but it is not as easy. But no, I mean, it was absolutely a great operation. We had a great team. Comcaf was absolutely amazing in just putting everything together for us, and they were very helpful. And everything was new to them too. So at the beginning, I know it was frustrating, but it was everything was brand new to everybody. I mean, just running the generators. I mean, getting fuel. Like, we couldn't get fuel because there was not enough fuel. Like, every time we try to go buy fuel, they would literally tell us, like, we don't have fuel for you guys because the fuels are for the soldiers. We can sell it to you, but you have to get a contract. You have to do this, and then if your generators go bad, now you got a $200,000-$300,000 inventory in each cooler that's going to go bad. Like, your meat is going to go bad. So if you shut down your cooler for, I don't know, 8 hours, 9 hours till you find fuel from outside, that meat is bad. Like, you can't just take it out and cook it and start feeding people. So, I mean, those are just day-to-day operation issues that we always run into.
It's absolutely wild. There's so much of that I would not have even thought would be an issue, and I'm like sitting here amazed at just how you managed to pull that off.
Knowing that it was that difficult to get things like lettuce and tomato, you could have charged me $20. I had to pay that. To help you out.
We actually really thought about our prices every day. I mean, me and my partners will sit down, we'll talk about it, and we'll fight over it. Like, hey, we should make this $18 because a lot of people, I mean, especially if you're in a business, they target a need. Like, if you have a need, like, there is no other chicken kebab place in here. So if I'm charging $50, people are still going to come and buy it for $50. Where me and Oma, I remember telling her, I'm like, well, if you don't like it here, just go somewhere else. Well, duh, there is no somewhere else, There is no somewhere else, so you're going to have to come back. But then again, we always did enough to even serve the people. So we actually had the same prices. I mean, I will send you pictures of the menu. We were selling kebabs for $12, $13 in Afghanistan, where we were flying things out there. I mean, we would charter a whole plane just to get, like I said, lettuce and tomatoes and stuff out there. And then if you didn't do it, you're going to get bad quality stuff. And we were not Supreme. We were not Sodexo. We were not these huge multi-billion-dollar companies where they had to push. Even if they told the military and say, hey, I need you to fly my chicken out, the military would fly it out for them. Where we were nobody. I mean, I remember going to offices and they were like, what? Who? Afghan Kabob House? Like, who are you? Like, how did you even get a contract? How are you even on the base? I'm like, I'm legit. I swear to God, I'm legit. I'm like, here's the contract, So yeah, definitely, yeah.
I think we had some more questions if you guys got time. Did you grow up in Afghanistan, Leo?
So I was born in Afghanistan, and then I left Afghanistan in the 91, early 90s, 91, 92. We left to India because obviously, once the whole situation in Afghanistan got worse, when Dr. Najibullah, the president, once he was removed from power, I know he wasn't killed at that time. He was in power. He got removed from power, and then that's when the Mujahideen came and took over in Afghanistan. And I remember I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember, just sitting down at home, and we used to live in this Russian buildings. It's called Makroyan in Kabul. And, and there were guns going off. And I mean, it was nighttime. I mean, there was just guns going off and just on and on and on. I mean, you could see the tracers everywhere. And my dad was keep on calming us down. And he was always tell us, like, calm down. It's okay. There's nothing going on. These are just the Mujahideens. They just took over the government. So they're celebrating. And that celebration went for 2 days. And then it went for 3 days. It went for 4 days. And the celebration wasn't stopping until it started hitting our buildings. Like, you could hear the next door house get hit with this. And then my dad and everybody realized in the building, like, okay, this is no damn celebration. They're actually fighting, And then, of course, there were no radios at that time. There were no, telephones or cell phones or computers or anything like that. So then we found out that everybody was actually fighting against each other, and then it turned into a tribal war. So my dad literally had to leave in a hurry because every man was in danger. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're Pashtun, if you're not Pashtun, if you're Azara, it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, you're talking about it in a matter of 4 miles, 5 miles, you got a different group, different people that's going to be against you. So if you're walking from like right here, 6 miles down, you're going to run into 2 different groups and you're not going to survive. So my dad, he actually left India. He went to India and then he worked from India to get our paperwork and stuff together. And he pulled us to India. But I know from the email, Zach, I know you wanted to know a little bit that I do remember in Afghanistan. I mean, at that time, it was absolutely perfectly fine. I will never forget this picture of this one guy that's in my mind. And I was a kid and I was walking in this market in Kabul and he was wearing this nice gray suit and there was 2 women with him and they were dressed so beautifully, perfectly. And they had no scarf. They were like nice dresses. And he was holding both of them. I guess those were both his wives, and he was walking with them. So it was a place where, you know, I remember like in schools where I went to school, or at least I remember of it, the guys and the girls with kids, they were all mixed up together. It wasn't no separation, at least in Kabul. I'm sure other part of the nation it was different. And just speaking with my uncles and, you know, from the elder generation, they always say like, you know, we're seeing videos online now. Like, absolutely. I mean, it was a peaceful place. It was a place where, you know, it had a future. It was going the right way, and if it was left like that, but unfortunately, there's always, you know, people out there that are against those things. They have their own views. I mean, of course, I'm not a politician. I'm not in the politics, but unfortunately, yeah. From what I remember, Afghanistan was definitely a peaceful place, you know, a place where you can go visit. And it's sad. It's so sad. It's really, really sad. It's like I have a lot of friends that I meet, you know, and, you know, they always say like, oh, I want to go to Afghanistan. Or I'm like, don't go to Afghanistan. And I'm not saying anything negative about Afghanistan. It's like, it's too much death there. It's too much danger there. I'd rather send you to Turkey. You want to go see something close to Afghanistan? Go to Turkey. Because, you know, it's the same people, the same type of food. You're free. You don't have to worry about watching your back the whole time. And they were like, well, you can go with us. I'm like, hell no, I ain't going with you, because I'll be in more danger than you, you know? You're better off going by yourself than go with me.
I think one of the first big things to happen when I got to Kandahar was like the college professors got kidnapped who were like backpacking. You know, they got kidnapped in an explosion. There was another, like a couple that was kidnapped, but they were hiking through Afghanistan. Like, who the hell decides that it's a good idea to just take, you know, 2 weeks off and go hiking through the Hindu Kush in 2016?
This guy was hiking through Afghanistan with his pregnant wife.
Wow.
People just don't think, man.
They got snatched up by the Akani network, and then they had another kid in captivity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I always say is it's too much debt in Afghanistan, right? So you can't be like, well, I'm an American, so the only thing I have to worry about is the Taliban, and I'll be okay. No, I mean, you can be in the wrong place in the wrong time. I mean, you can be driving behind somebody, and this guy is driving too close to a convoy, and the convoy start open fire on them, and you're gonna get hit. I mean, we've been in that kind of situation doing our jobs. Of course, I don't want to get into the details of the jobs that we used to do. I mean, we had to be out there, you know, not in uniform, and people don't know who you are. So if you're going behind these Marines that are just driving behind you, they think you're just another Afghan, not knowing, of course, that who you are. They will shoot at you. They will kill you because they're scared for their lives. You know, so I mean, it's just too much death in Afghanistan. It's always been like that, you know, since you know, all this been happening since the 90s, early 90s. It's just too much death in Afghanistan.
So with that in mind, Leo, like what we're seeing now is there's this mad dash to get interpreters and their families out of Afghanistan, right? Which something we probably should have been working on since we signed the agreement with the Taliban last February, but we're not politicians, right? And there's a lot of concern for these interpreters and their families, and that's understandable. From your perspective, did you ever, were those concerns ever significant for you, either as an interpreter or even when you were just running the Kabob House? Like, I don't know if you still had family in the country, and there was concern that somebody might tell the wrong person and they'd be in danger. Was that ever on your mind?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it says everybody that has worked in Afghanistan has been on their mind. I think it depends. It really depends on your position. Where did you work? Like, for example, like when I went to Afghanistan, I mean, I met some amazing people in Afghanistan. I met some great leaders that taught me a lot in life. And the first thing they asked me, they're like, "Well, what do you want your name to be?" I'm like, "Well, this is my name." Well, I think it would be a great idea for you to change your name to something else. Blah blah blah, just for people not to know you, because Afghans know Afghans. If I know your last name and your dad's name, I guarantee you I'll connect one dot to another in like 2 hours. I'll call my uncle, I'll call my aunt, I'll call my mom, I'll call my dad. I'll be like, who's this? One way or another, I'll figure out exactly who you are, what city you're from, who's your dad, I would know everything about you. It's a small place. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's unfortunate, it's sad about not only the interpreters, there were a lot of other people that were working in Afghanistan. Of course, interpreters were on the front line, but there were a lot of the intelligence agency. We had a lot of people in there, just logistics, like, you know what I mean? There are a lot of people in Afghanistan that are in danger right now that were just simply businessmen. They worked for Americans. They came and built, I don't know, our compounds, or did electric work for us. Those are the people also in danger, So I'm one of those fortunate people that I don't have a family in Afghanistan, so I don't have to worry about that part of it. But unfortunately, these people do, And I wish if the process was faster for these people to get out here, but there's a lot of people that they also have to understand that there's a process that we have to go through. Okay, I don't know why we always close our minds thinking that the enemy is just dumb. The enemy is not dumb. Like, our enemy is not dumb. The enemy to Afghanistan is not dumb, right? So if we just rush these people in here and say, well, let's bring A, B, C, D, everybody in without any, background checks and actually doing our jobs, we will end up bringing bad people here. And then who's going to be responsible for that? So that's also, we have to look at that point too. Because I talked to a lot of these people, and they upset. They were like, well, you made it to America, so now you don't care about others. And it's not that I don't care about others, it's I care about where I live, and I don't want any, I want the process. There's a process to go through, and sometimes it takes a long time. And I was speaking to somebody earlier, and I'm like, if I was going through that process right now, I'll probably lay behind for years, because if somebody asked me, where's my birth certificate? I don't have one. It was burned down, like in my house, left behind. So these interpreters, a lot of these people run into the same kind of issues, and there will be documentation, like, here in the US, there'll be a project put together saying, let's get all these documents for this person, do the background check, make sure it clears. Now, he or she might not have a birth certificate, or they might have traveled somewhere, or, or met with somebody, or they're related to somebody. So those are things that's going to push them back, and the process will be pushed back. But it's absolutely unfortunate. It's absolutely sad that these people are there. I wish we can get them out, and we are getting them out. I mean, I see them every single day. I'm more on the front line where I hear about them. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families coming. We just had a whole bunch of families that came to Virginia. We got more families coming here and locally in Fayetteville. A lot of the soldiers, they're stepping in, and a lot of the interpreters that work for them, they're bringing them in. So everybody's working. Everybody's absolutely working hard, really, really hard to get these people out. But unfortunately, it will take time. It is going to take time, and I'd rather do it right than do it wrong. That's what I would do. Again, I'm not a politician. I'm not. I wish I could do more about it, but there's nothing I can do about it. But I would definitely be careful for the process.
Yeah, that's a lot of good points. I mean, I think the United States at least owes it to people that if they want to come here and be citizens, we provide a track for that as fast as possible. Because, you guys, you did for sure. A lot of other people, gave a lot of their life and security for the United States in that war. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
we owe it to them.
Like I said, it was just not. There was so many other people. That worked logistics for us, that did so much different things for us. That are also in danger. Like they were partners with us. Through this war, and they all going to be left behind, and it's very, very sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah, it is. Yeah,
looking at where Afghanistan is, so in the 2-ish months that we started doing this, the Taliban tripled gain territory. And now you're starting to see. I kind of equate it to that initial punch, like if you're a boxer where you get stunned and you can't react for 10 or 15 seconds, then you finally gather your footing and start pushing back. And we are starting to see that now. A lot of these districts that were lost, especially out in the West, the Afghan government, the military forces are starting to regain that. We're starting to see Ismail Khan has reconstituted his Mujahideen out in Herat. I'm sure it's just a matter of time before Dosum officially reconstitutes his Mujahideen up in Mazar-e Sharif. I feel like, and we kind of talked about this, we're just going back to square one.
Yeah, I mean, the separation is going to happen automatically in Afghanistan. I mean, that's just automatic, because where do you feel the safest? Around your own people, right? Who do you trust the most? If Dostum was perfectly fine when there was a backup for that government, but today when that backup is gone, he's going to go back to his own area where he feels, supported, where he knows he's got the support. I mean, we knew all this stuff. I think we knew all this stuff, and I always, I think I blame ourselves more than anybody, because we always think our enemy is stupid. Our enemy is not stupid, I mean, like, I'm looking at a lot of the videos and stuff at this moment right now that's coming up on the internet and stuff, and it's just, they're smart at every point. They do propaganda. They love this, I mean, they put this fear in people's mind before you even go to that town. So the next week they're saying, like, well, we're going to go to Fayetteville and take over Fayetteville. Before they even approach Fayetteville, everybody there is scared, whether it's the special forces, whether it's the local police. And our local police over there is not well equipped. I remember going from checkpoint to checkpoint and talking to these people, and all they would beg for is like, hey, I'm here to fight. I see Taliban go through this route every night, going from point A to point B, but I can't do anything about it because I got one AK-47 with one magazine. So what am I supposed to do? Like, and you see this every day. I mean, we knew everything. I mean, we do know everything. We know exactly where the leaders were. We know, I mean, me and my team would be sitting down and would be so frustrated. And I remember this, unfortunately, I don't want to say any names of any of my teammates, but I remember this guy got up and he broke every fucking thing on that table. I mean, he broke every computer. They probably cost like $20,000 a piece, because he was so frustrated that we were getting shot the whole night. We were getting shot at the whole night, and we couldn't shoot back because we were waiting for permission. We were waiting for permission to shoot back, and I'm hearing these guys, and I'm telling the guys where they're saying, where they're located, what is going on, but we couldn't fight back because we didn't have the permission to shoot back at them. So when you put people in that kind of position, it gets frustrating. It gets to a point where, like, why am I even here? How can I fight? Just like you say, being in a boxing match, like, you can't tie my hand behind my back and throw me in a boxing match. And yeah.
I mean, I think that's a perfect, that one scenario I think is a perfect analogy. Like, we're burnt out now. Like, we're tired of sitting there and waiting, seeking that permission to do probably what is necessary to be done, right? That probably the downside of a NATO mission where it's multinational and you have to make concessions.
Yeah.
No different than, well, different, but very similar to, the food inspections, right? You got to appease everybody. And
yeah,
that's probably something that we ran into from that counterinsurgency perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, overall, I just feel so bad and sad for all the people that we lost. We lost some great people. I mean, I know people personally that we lost for this war, for this whole thing, and all that went to waste. With all the money that we spent, all the time that we spent, people lost their life. People lost marriages. People lost marriages because they were over there fighting a war that they don't even know. They came back home and now they're not together no more because they put that time into that war, the money, the loss of life. And unfortunately, all that went to nowhere. And these guys will, it's sad to say, but they will take over. I guarantee you they will take over. I mean, it's the same thing happened in Iraq, right? Just because we have a small team of special forces over there that's going to help, it's just not going to be. There's a lot of people scared for their families. A lot of this, even the soldiers, the military, they're scared for their families. They're scared for their life. And these people are not going anywhere. I mean, the most difficult part of our job was out there, and I used to tell all my teams, even when they were not special forces. I mean, I could be working with the regular teams. I used to tell them the same thing, and I say, when that guy picks up a gun, he's a Taliban. When he puts it down, he's a farmer. how do you fight that? You know what I mean? Like, even you can rely on my expertise of understanding that, but even me, I'm a human being. I can only tell so much, you know. So that's always going to be the position in Afghanistan. You know, you're never going to know who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. I mean, we give billions and billions and billions of dollars to people that just took our money. You know, didn't do anything, didn't do the security for us, dig the wells for us, didn't do the contracts that they were supposed to do, didn't do even 3% of what they were supposed to do. If they would have done at least 3% of what they were supposed to do, not even 100%, we would have been somewhere. But we made the same mistakes over and over. We'll go back to the same person and give them more money. And it's like, we can't just throw money at people all the time, you know, like, again, I hate talking about politics, but you know, you need to have that backup. We definitely need to have that backup. If you're gonna send soldiers out there, you need to have backup. I mean, unfortunately, we're not gonna get that with Biden. We're never gonna get that. Don't smile at me. Don't look at me. She's looking at me. She's like, I knew you were gonna go there.
Still there.
She was like, she is still here. Yeah, she's just like, oh my god, he's gonna go there. But
you guys opened a can of worms.
If it's any consolation, I haven't liked any president since like Calvin Coolidge, so don't worry.
Homa, did you grow up in Afghanistan? What were you doing on CAF when you met Leo?
I did not. I was fortunate to get out of Afghanistan when I was about like 3 or 4 years old. So for me, home is Arizona. Every time somebody asks me, where are you from? I'm like, Arizona.
Which part of Arizona?
Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Phoenix, Arizona. But we're all over the place. And again, like him, I'm fortunate to not have family in Afghanistan. And I recall when I first got on contract and, you know, I got connected with my team and, you know, they were like, change your name. And, you know, we don't want them to know who you are. And that's where I was going. I was going to Kandahar. I was attached to a unit who was working out of Kandahar. And they're like, since that is where you're from, you know, they might know your name. They might know your last name. And I never changed it. I didn't, because I didn't have anybody that I would have a connection to out there. So again, I was probably like him, fortunate that we didn't have anybody back there. So it was one of those situations, but no, I was born, raised Arizona, started kindergarten, and here I am in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
All right. Yeah. Did you work with a lot of, and I know you're first generation, obviously immigrant, but I know you said you came over here at 3 or 4. So, yeah. I mean, did you work with a lot of people, you know, that speak these languages, that work as interpreters, and they just grew up because their parents made it out of Afghanistan. They live in the United States, and now you're looking for a job, you know, at 18 or 19 years old, and like, hey, I speak that language. And did you work with a lot of people like that? I
did not. No. For me, my biggest mission for my dad in life was go to school, get your education. That's it. Don't worry about anything. Mm-hmm. So I never worked. I never did anything throughout my whole life until I think I turned 21. And then I actually got married at 21. So it was like an arranged marriage. I got married. And then that's when I first got my first job. And I worked in Macy's at the shoe department.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, after 9/11, I mean, if you speak Pashto, you speak Farsi. I mean, you're following up with that. And that's exactly how I got into being an interpreter working for DOD. I mean, you're getting calls from every single 3-digit agency possible. You know, you're getting calls from every one of them like, hey, come work for us. We can do this. And then with somebody like us, for example, like, you know, thankfully, like, you know, we're fit, physically we're fit, we're young, and then speaking the different dialects or different languages from the different region. I mean, that's what the teams look for, right? I mean, you don't want to have an interpreter that's 6 years old, and now you go on a 15-click walk to a mission. You know, you want somebody that can keep up with you. So that's why the demand was there for us. But unfortunately, in the younger generation, it was hard to find people that can speak all the languages. You know, they can speak Pashto, but now they can't speak Farsi or Urdu. So it's useless if you take them to the border, because now you can only work in Kabul or vice versa. So, you know, I mean, that literally happened to, I think, every single one of us, where like, after 9/11, a few years later, we're just getting calls and emails and people approaching us and say, hey, man, would you like to work for us? And I know these are going to be key languages for us, you know, especially being fluent in it and knowing them all. I think English is probably my worst language. So, but I know I can get around with it. And there's always going to be a job there in the security part. Actually, that's what I was going to school for. I wanted to become a state trooper, because I'm like, And I noticed that in my community in New York, in upstate New York, in Albany, Schenectady, is that, where people have issues with the police department and stuff, and they can't speak English, or the hospital and stuff, it was a one-way direction for them almost. So I was talking to my professors, and I'm like, I'd love to be a state trooper. I'd love to be involved, in the police department, where, if I see somebody that's, Pashto and Farsi, whatever, I can jump in and solve their problem, just like a Spanish speaker, for example, like somebody, like each department have Spanish speakers, and it makes their job easier. But it just at that moment, and when I was in college, it's just the opportunity in Afghanistan just seemed just so huge, that I couldn't resist it. It was just almost impossible,
If English is your worst language, Leo, I feel a whole lot worse about my Spanish now. And maybe that explains why all of the so we had like 4 or 5 interpreters that we worked with in the JOC, and they're all like 65 years old. So that was
especially in the
why all
JOC.
old guys are with us.
Yep, especially in the JOC,
Huh?
because that was more a sit down job, and yeah.
I think they're all from Herat. I don't know why, but they're all from Herat.
Okay.
A mentality, maybe, because the people that really needed to be out there were against it. They did not want to cooperate. They did not want to utilize that skill that they had because they thought it was
Right.
wrong. And the people who were out there, they were still great help, though.
I mean, even in our community, we got the bad end of the stick as well. I mean, even here in America,
Yes.
I remember people talking to us like, "Oh, your money's bad. You're going against your own people."
I was judged for it,
Oh,
for
yeah.
being an interpreter.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
they're like, "Oh, you're a traitor," and I'm like,
You're a
"How
traitor,
am I
yeah.
a traitor? I'm an American."
Yeah, I mean, they would.
Yeah.
I have been asked. I don't want to say their name, of course, but I literally asked by somebody to leave the house right after dinner because they didn't want me to hang out with their kid no more, because they didn't want me to influence their kid on becoming an interpreter and going to Afghanistan because we're a traitor. So we were kind of a traitor from every end. Like if the Taliban would catch us, they would have killed us in a heartbeat because they were like, "Well, you're a traitor," and then when you come
Right.
here, it's like you're a traitor. It's like, okay, but unfortunately, people don't understand. It's like we are Americans, and I don't know why would you take that away from me. Like people say, I'm an American citizen. I feel like I am an American. I sworn in. I became an American, and this is my country, and I will fight for this country. I will do anything for this country, and we appreciate this country. This country has given us everything, and the people that are here, it's just so sad and unfortunate that if they don't appreciate it. And they always talk about, we tell people all the time, I'm like, man, if you're not happy here, go back. Like seriously, like if you're not happy here, you're still doing everything here. You want to live here, you want to make the money here, but you don't want to support everything here,
Yeah, I recall, I must have been probably around 20 years old, and I had a much different set of views back then when it came to a lot of stuff politically. But I heard a great quote. Like, there's a difference between those who are born American and those who choose to become American, and I do believe that there should be some added weight to those who choose to want to be a part of something, and so I hope that's still not the case as often, but if that is the case, that's really unfortunate, because you two did a lot of great things, not just for America, but you also you're trying to help your home country,
Absolutely.
your place of origin, and if anybody, like the way I see it, understanding I can only speak so much as a person who was born and raised in America, and I left CAF to fly to other bases, right? But to me, all it takes is looking at videos of the Taliban slaughtering literally 300 people in Spin Boldak last week.
Wow.
to convince me that that's not the right. I wouldn't be too upset if I was considered being a traitor, because I don't want people like that to be in power.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah. I mean, to me, the way I look at it with those people is just, I don't think so they care about anybody or anything. And, one of the things that I know we spoke briefly about in the email is like, was it the right thing to do to go to Afghanistan? Absolutely. Because at that time, Afghanistan became a nation for people all around the world. Anybody that had money can come over there and build their camp and become any kind of terrorist organization they want to, because they didn't care. There was no security for anybody. I'm talking about if I had something crazy to do. I want to build some crazy, I don't know, biological weapon or something. I could go to Afghanistan, pay the Taliban, and be like, hey, I'll take over this mountain and let me do my, whatever I want to do. And the world didn't care about it. So it was absolutely necessary for us to go to Afghanistan and do what we had to do. We had to get rid of those people, which we did, but we didn't. I wish we would have completed it. We just left it halfway. Even from the beginning, we just left it halfway. I think there's, again, this is my personal opinion. I think there's bigger politics behind it that I don't understand, and but that's what it is, because we could have done the job. We could have easily done the job, but unfortunately, we were stopped from doing our job.
Yeah, I think we have all spoken, if not on this podcast, at least in person, probably walking around the boardwalk, that we all agreed that there was no question that going to Afghanistan was the right thing to do. It was just what you do once you get there.
Once you get there, yeah.
I think when Iraq happened is really when we took our eye off of the mission in Afghanistan. Then you couple in, we need a president, and so we started working on the elections in 2004, and Karzai's president, and now it's like, okay, now we got to build a government. It's like, well, we didn't come here to do all this. We came here to eradicate Al Qaeda and preferably the Taliban while we're at it. We're not here to make sure that the Pashtuns and the Hazaras and the Uzbeks and the Tajiks can all stand in line and go vote. I'm like, not to sound callous, but that's their problem to fix. We're not here to fix that.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I wish we would have done that homework before going to, and I think that's where one of the biggest problems is in Afghanistan is people don't realize those difficulties once they get in. Like we went in, the Russians went in, the Brits came in. Like anybody that went to Afghanistan, they don't realize that these are going to be the ongoing issues. Taking over Afghanistan is probably the most easiest thing, right? Like it took us 2 days, 3 days to take over the whole nation. Yeah, sure. Now what?
It took less than 3 months for Mullah Omar to come to the table, and then Donald Rumsfeld said no.
So
it didn't take very long.
Yeah, it's not going to take us long to take over the country, but what do we do after that is the biggest problem.
There's a lot of different moving pieces that nobody really understands, and I don't think it's really a problem for the West to solve, though. And I think we've talked about that here. It's like, what does some general from America have any say in the state of the country of Afghanistan? I don't know.
We used to talk all the time, the Afghan solutions to the Afghan problems, right? Like that's anywhere. Iraq, same way. America, the same way. I kind of want to steer this back to a little more not so downy topic. I'm really curious because I saw the newspaper clipping. I was looking for something to write about regarding Afghanistan on our Facebook page. I'm trying to be a little more active in updating that type of stuff. And I saw an article in the Fayetteville Observer about Afghan Kabob. So can you kind of walk us through the decision-making process where you said, yep, this is closing down. It's time to go back to the States. Oh, I know. I'm going to open up a Kabob House in Fayetteville.
Well, so it's every time I do a restaurant or food business, and when I sell it or get rid of it, and I'm like, thank God, I am never ever doing this again. I'm never doing food business again. Just so much headache. You can never keep everybody happy. And honestly, Oma has been bugging me for the past 6 years, 7 years. Like, please come to Fayetteville, open one over here. And of course, a lot of my team guys are from Fayetteville. And then they will always ask me like, hey man, when are you going to come open one over here? We need that type of food over here. We don't have anything close to it. Please. So I kind of got done with Afghanistan. I mean, I still have my business over there, but like about 6 years ago, I wasn't involved as much. I was back here more in the States, so I moved to Maryland area with my family, and then I opened a gas station in there. It's a gas station franchise that I opened over there, and I was running that. And then just right before, a year before the COVID-19, I shut that business down. Again, I was like, I'm done with retail. I don't want to do retail anymore. And I started doing import-export more export from the U.S. I was exporting motorcycles to Japan and Dubai. Which was really great. It was absolutely, I loved it. I enjoyed it because I was basically working for myself and working by myself. I didn't have to deal with customers, any of that. And unfortunately, the COVID-19 was kind of picking up and shutting everything down around China and everywhere else. So, I lost a good deal of money in that business, and containers getting stuck all over the place. And then so we closed that down, and then that's when we kind of decided. Well, I came out here a couple times, and we got back together. We were talking, and then we decided to get married after all this time. And so we finally got married. And then once we got married, and that's when we were like, okay, you know what, we have to, because I moved out here to Fayetteville, and then we
did. It took us about 2 years, maybe a year and a half, 2 years to find location, go from Fayetteville is very small, but yet trying to find that perfect location where we knew everybody can get to it. So we wanted something like in the middle.
We didn't want to, first we were thinking about actually opening one on the base, which would be great for the soldiers. But then we thought about it. We're like, it's going to be really, really good for the soldiers. But unfortunately, what about the regular people or their families are not going to be able to enjoy or at least have an experience to eat food? And I definitely want to say this. I had a customer 2 days ago, and if he ever listens to this, he will know exactly what I'm talking about. He came in with the two of his daughter, and this happens to me almost every day. And I love the people in Fayetteville. I mean, they literally welcomed us with open arms, like
Yes.
every single human being, not only the business, but just with us. Even when we moved out here to this house, the people are here are just amazing, and you have no idea how thankful we are to everybody. And this, I know he was a soldier, so he was talking about Afghanistan, and we started talking about Afghanistan, and he was actually in CAF, and he was like, thank you so much for opening this. And of course the food, he liked the food and everything, and he was like, I wanted to give this experience to my kids. And so he ordered the kabli pilau, which has the rice and the raisins and stuff. So he was telling this kid, like, this is the kabli we used to eat in Afghanistan. And I mean, it was just absolutely wonderful to see that family, just experience that. And we have pictures all over our walls, and people will come there, and all kinds of soldiers will stand at each picture and talk about it to their loved ones or their wives or kids and say, I was in this area, I was doing security here, or they would take pictures with the picture that we have on the walls. So it's been absolutely amazing. I mean, the experience that I've had here, I've had other restaurants and
Getting
stuff before.
there was not easy, though.
No,
Getting
absolutely.
where we are, it was not easy.
I think it was harder here in Fayetteville than it was in Afghanistan, because to find like a welder, like, oh my God, it was just, and I guess because it was COVID-19 too, so not a lot of people wanted to work, and people just didn't want to work. And we run into that same exact issue every day. People don't want to work. Everybody's running into the same exact problem. I mean, I have friends that are in business. People you go to Taco Bell, they're shut down because they don't have employees. And if the government is going to start throwing money at you, I had an interview with a person a few weeks ago, and he was like, "How much are you going to start me off with?" Well, I was like, "I'll start you with minimum wage or $8, and depending on your experience, you'll get a raise." Blah blah blah. We go from there. And he looked at me. He was like, "Nah." And usually I would get pissed off, but he actually made me understood. He was like, listen, if I work here for $8, I make more money sitting at home, especially with the federal money coming to me now. So I'd rather not get an employment than sit at home because I'm making more money. And I was like, you know what? That's sad. That's actually, unfortunately, true. Right now, we're running the whole kitchen with 2 people, and we got 1 part-time person coming in. So it's 3 of us running the whole kitchen. Like right now, I'm here doing this, and the whole time I'm thinking about the store. I'm like, what if they get busy? What if they get busy? There's nobody there. And you also don't want to disappoint. I don't want to disappoint my customer coming in for the first time. Like, for example, if you're talking good about the food to somebody else and they're like, well, let's go there, and then they have that bad experience. I want to avoid that as much as possible. But unfortunately, nobody wants to work. It's just us,
Yeah.
So Oma, of course, she has her own job. She works for Worldwide Language Resources, and so she's not.
Worldwide has been a part of our life for over 12 years. So he was deployed as an interpreter with Worldwide Language Resources. I got deployed with Worldwide Language Resources, and then when I got back off contract as an interpreter, now for the past 10 years, I've been a recruiter for Worldwide Language Resources. So Worldwide has been a part of our life since day one.
Yeah, so I mean, she helps out on the weekends. She comes into the store, and so we didn't plan on, we did zero advertisement because I knew that, if we do advertisement, I know it's easy to get people into the shop, right? I can do tons of advertisement. People will come in, but if you don't fulfill that need or that you can't get to your customer, you're not going to make it. So with 2 people in the kitchen, you can't serve 1,500 people, 1,400 people. Like, it's just impossible. It's not doable. So we didn't do any advertisement until we got an email. She does most of the communication with like the emails and Facebook and stuff, and she reached out to you guys, and thanks all of you guys for doing this. Jacob from Fayetteville Observer reached out to us and said, hey, they would like to do an article on us. And when he came in, I mean, he just loved our story. He loved our story, how we met, how we came here, how 10 years later we get married, and now we're living in the same town. I mean, he really fell in love with everything, like our story. So he wrote a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful article. I mean, thanks to him.
Yeah, that was probably our first advertisement.
And a lot of people think like we put that in the newspaper. I'm like, no, I didn't. Like, I didn't put that in the newspaper. And it's like, well, how did you get on the front page? I'm like, I have no idea. It was just very. I mean, he was amazing. He definitely. I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, well, and luckily, the nice thing about Fort Bragg, so Stu and I, as well as on top of me growing up there, I was stationed there. The word of mouth is going to do far away more than a billboard would probably do.
That's true.
So that is good. I'm super pumped. I was so excited to see that you guys are on the cover of the Observer. That's awesome. Is Homa still criticizing your food?
No, I'm behind it. Why do you think it's so perfect? Because I'm the taste tester. It comes to me before it goes out to the people.
It really does. So I mean, they have a big part. Our kids and Homa has a big part in our food. Because if I make something very, very traditional, they would tell me to tweak it out to where it's good for, somebody growing up in America can eat it. So it's not too spicy. It's Americanized. So it does absolutely help. But no, they hate it. They hate my food. And I can make anything in the world. I mean, they're probably the most difficult people to make happy with food. And believe me, I'll make Chinese food. Like, I'll sit there and go through recipes, and I'm like, okay, they're gonna love this today, and they're like, nah, we want Burger King or McDonald's or something. Chick-fil-A, excuse me, yes, Chick-fil-A.
That's our to-go. But yeah, no, we don't want to be difficult. But hey, I guess we get good feedback from the food, so I will take credit for that.
If you guys ever plan on expanding, can you first start with Southeast Idaho? So that Fayetteville every time.
We actually been we've been reached by a few people so far that were really interested. Excuse me, especially in Raleigh. We had one gentleman came in that was absolutely serious, and because they actually had an Afghan food in Raleigh that recently shut down. It was called Afghan Kabob.
The funny thing is, it was called Afghan Kabob, and they thought we were connected with them.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get phone calls from Raleigh, and the people place an order, and then when we call them back, like, "Sir, your food is ready," they were like, "Oh no, I'm sorry, I called the wrong place." I'm like, "God damn it, like, you're an hour away. Didn't you see that?" But unfortunately, they shut down. We ate there. The food was pretty decent. The food was good. They had a good location. I don't know. I mean, at that time, we were just starting. As soon as we started, maybe 2 months later, they shut down. But let's see.
I definitely appreciate you guys coming on, and I mean that it's been a great story to listen to. And I know you guys got a restaurant to get back to, and don't want to take up any more of your time.
Well, we really appreciate you guys. Thank you guys, and I seriously look forward to all of you guys coming to the store. Please, when you do guys come to the store, let us know, like, in advance. Text me, call me, email me. So we definitely want to prepare something more homey for you guys.
Something off the menu.
We can get the original spice.
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, shoot, I'm down in Wilmington, so I'll probably be the first.
Please, yes, shoot me a text. I know I sent Zach my cell phone number, but you can have my cell phone number. Give me a call or text me.
Yeah, I'll get it to you, Stu.
Yeah, just text me and be like, "Hey, I'm on my way. I'll be there in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever." And I definitely look forward to it.
Well, how about we take this last 30, 40 seconds. You guys can just cut a promo about restaurant. We got quite a few listeners out in Fayetteville area, so they're going to hear about it.
Sure. Well, we just want to invite everybody to Afghan Kabob. We're located on 3401 Rayford Road in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We do have halal options. We have vegetarian options. Everybody's welcome. It's a family environment. We welcome everybody, and we just want to thank everybody seriously from our bottom of our heart. Like everybody's been just absolutely amazing with the support, the comments, everybody that have left us reviews on Facebook, on Google. We want to thank you guys. We try to get back to you as much as we can. Alma is always responsible for as soon as we can. But we really, really appreciate every single one of you guys, and it means the world to us. It really does.
All right. Well, hey, thanks, guys. We
Awesome.
We can't convey to you what it meant to us every Friday in CAF. So thank you very much. And again, for everybody listening, go to Afghan Kabob out on Rayford Road in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Leo, Homa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Guys.
Thank you, guys.